Where's the gold?
400,000 metric tons are in the central bank of the Philippines. There's over 200,000 metric tons in Union Bank of Switzerland. And some of that gold is buried securely in the Philippines as well. Some of it is held in various banks, but the bulk of it is in the Philippines.
It's time for all Filipinos to learn the real ancient history. And the Philippines is the land of gold since from antiquity.
The Philippines is the land of gold since from antiquity.
640,000 metric tons of gold. Yes po, may ganyan tayong kalaking kayamanan na pamana na mula pa sa ating mga ninuno noong unang panahon. At ang pamanang ito ay nagpasalin-salin sa mga iba't ibang pangulo o hari ng ating bansa. At ang last na pinagbilinan nito ay ang ating yumaong pangulo na si Ferdinand Marcos. At bago pa siya namatay, ang kayamanang ito ay inilagay niya o inilagak niya sa Marcos Foundation para nga sa ating lahat ng mga Filipino. Para wala ng squatters dapat kasi po ang dami nating kawawa. Kaya kung bago ka lang sa channel na ito, i-share mo ang video na ito para mas maraming mga Filipinong makakaalam sa buong mundo.
Ang buong arkipelago ng Pilipinas ay pag-aari ng iisang pamilya lamang. Bago pa man ang pananakop ng mga Kastila, ang buong arkipelago at ang mga isla ng Guam at Hawaii ay nakikilala bilang Maharlika. Ang Maharlika ay isang kaharian sa ilalim ng angkan ng Cagayan Tallano mula ika-9 na siglo hanggang ika-15 siglo. Isa sa mga hari ng Maharlika ay si Haring Luisong Cagayan Tallano, ama ni Raha Lapu-Lapu at Raha Soliman. Sakupin ng mga Kastila ang arkipelago, naging malawakan ang pangangamkam ng lupa kasabay ang pagpataw ng mataas na buwis. Dahil dito, ang mga tagapamana ni Haring Luisong Cagayan Tallano ay umapila sa reyna ng Espanya laban sa pangangabuso ng mga Kastila. Bilang tugon, iniutos ni King Philip na ibalik ang pag-aari ng buong arkipelago sa angkan ng Cagayan Tallano. Noong 1762, dumating ang British Royal Army sa Manila upang labanan ang mga puwersa ng Kastila. Noong 1764, natalo ng mga Briton ang mga Kastila. Ang British government ay nag-issue ng Royal Decree Protocol 01-4 batay sa mga batas ng West Indies na nag-amyenda sa karapatang ari ni Haring Philip ng Espanya sa Pilipinas at iginawad ang karapatang ari ng arkipelago sa mga angkan ng Cagayan Tallano. Ito ay kinilala ng Espanya pagkatapos ng kasunduang pangkapayapaan sa pagitan ng mga royal government ng Espanya at Bretanya. Nang matalo ng Estados Unidos ang Espanya sa Battle of Manila Bay, tinapos ng dalawang bansa ang digmaan sa pamamagitan ng pagpirma ng isang kasunduang nakilala bilang Treaty of Paris, kung saan ipinagbili ng Espanya ang Pilipinas sa halagang $20 million. Ang nagbayad ng nasabing halaga sa pamamagitan ng US gold coins ay si Don Esteban Benitez Tallano. Ang Oficiana de Cabildo ay kinilala at pinagtibay ang Royal Decree Protocol 01-4 at nirehistro bilang titulo de compra pabor kay Prince Lacan Acuña Ulrihal Bolquia Tagayan Tallano. Sa ilalim ng gobyernong Amerikano, ang pag-aari ng angkan ng Tallano ay pinagtibay pa nang ipasa ang Act No. 496 na nagtransforma sa titulo de compra bilang Torrens Title. Sa bisa nito, kinilala ang titulo ng mga Tallano bilang Original Certificate of Title or OCT 01-4 noong 3 ng Oktubre 1904. Ang Torrens Title ay hindi maaaring kansilahin kahit lumipas ang milyong-milyong taon. Mangingibabaw ang karapatan ng may-ari ng titulo sa pagpapaalis ng sino mang umuukupa ng lupang nasasakupan nito. At ang Torrens Title ay hindi maaaring talunin ng anuman o sino mang may titulo. Sa Pilipinas, walang titulo ang inisyu bago pa ang OCT 01-4.
Throughout the Spanish occupation of the Maharlika, members of the Tagayan Tallano clan have been visiting Europe since some of their relatives were English and Austrian. From 1866 to 1898, Prince Julian Macleod Tallano, who became titleholder of OCT 01-4 in 1864, had also been frequenting the Vatican. In 1934, under Pope PiusXII, the Vatican negotiated with a member of the Filipino Royal Family, the Christian Tallano clan in the Maharlika. An agreement was reached that 640,000 metric tons of the Tallano gold would be lent to the Pope. This was part of that gold accumulated by the Southeast Asian Srivijayan Madjapahit Empire during its glorious reign of 900 years. In 1939, two members of the Tallano family and a Roman Catholic priest, Father Jose Antonio Diaz, brought the gold from Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, to the Vatican. After doing this, Father Diaz went back to the Maharlika and resided in Cabanatuan City. After World War II, he facilitated the safe return of the 640,000 metric tons of gold from the Vatican to the Maharlika. Manuel Acuña Rojas, a relative of the Acuña Tagayan Tallano clan, then a congressman, and Bishop Enrique Sobrepena Sr., in the presence of attorney Lorenzo Tanyada, received the gold in Manila. Having gained the trust and confidence of Father Diaz, the Tallano clan made him the main negotiator and trustee of their gold. Father Diaz, in turn, hired the services of attorney Ferdinand Marcos, then a highly recommended brilliant young lawyer, having attained notoriety when he successfully defended himself in the Nalundasan case in 1939. The Tallano clan paid commission to Father Diaz and attorney Marcos in gold, 30% from the principal of 640,000 metric tons. In 1949, the two richest men in the world were Father Jose Antonio Diaz and attorney Ferdinand Marcos. Between the two of them, they legitimately earned and owned 192,000 metric tons of gold. Ferdinand Marcos withdrew their share of the gold from the central bank and minted it, RPCB. Sometime later, Father Diaz and Marcos brought their gold to Switzerland, in the Swiss Bank Corporation in Zurich. The remaining 400,000 metric tons of Tallano gold is in the third-floor basement of the central bank minting plant in East Avenue, Quezon City. Gold for gold, dollar for dollar, this country, the Maharlika, is the richest country in the world. During a talk show in a U.S. TV the week following the bombing of the New York Twin Towers, President Bush was asked this question, which is the richest country in the world today? With a smile he said, the Philippines.
On April 9, 1973, Marcos said, "My earthly goods have been placed in the custody and for the disposition of the Marcos Foundation, dedicated to the welfare of the Filipino people.
These wealth were not originally owned by the Filipino people but came from the following sources. First, these were accumulated golds and wealth from the ancient empires of Srivijayan and Madjapahit empires which existed and reigned in Southeast Asia centuries long before the Europeans first came here. These golds and wealth were owned by many of Madjapahit nobility/royalty, clans represented by the Dets, Rajas, Lakans, and many other kings, queens, and other royalties who ruled these ancient kingdoms in the Philippines, and of Maharlikas, middlemen, warriors, freemen, professionals, and traders who lived in the archipelago during and before Spanish colonization. One notable owners include the Tallano Royal Family related to European British royalties, who possess millions of metric tons of golds and perhaps is sole owner of the original land title of the whole archipelago, which includes Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and Sabah. The 640,000 metric tons of gold held in custody of Central Bank of the Philippines are owned by the Tallano clan. However, 30% of these golds were awarded by Tallano clan to Jose Antonio Diaz and his then hired lawyer, Ferdinand Marcos, as commission payment, because they're the ones who facilitated this transaction of gold between the Tallano family and the government of the Philippines. As a result, Diaz and Marcos legally owned 192,000 metric tons of gold. Later, when Marcos became president, he withdrew their golds from Central Bank, minted them, sealed them with RPCB, and deposited them in different banks in different countries to earn interest and be used as metal backup for other currencies. These golds which they legally owned earned enormous interests. Second, during World Wars I and II, the Axis powers, represented by the Nazi government of Adolf Hitler based in Germany, General Mussolini of Italy, and General Yamashita Tomoyuki of Japan, have looted up so many golds and riches from many different kingdoms and empires, and buried them in the hundreds of islands of the Philippines and Indonesia to safekeep them from eyes of the Allied powers, who many have thought to be the saviors of humanity. Unfortunately, at the end of World War II, Yamashita returned to Japan but left all their looted golds in the Philippines and Indonesia, never to take them out again because Japan was bombed by the US. Ferdinand Marcos, who also happened to be a victim of Death March, also led a guerrilla group called Maharlika, which the US government keeps on telling the public that these claims are just hallucinations of Marcos, against the abuse of Japanese during their occupation of the Philippines, perfectly knew about these vast wealth buried in many caves and hidden underground bunkers made by Japanese armies as hiding places of these enormous amount of looted golds and other wealth such as diamonds, emeralds, and other precious stones. Later, when Marcos became president, and in his second term, he thought he needs to declare martial law to take over the whole country so he can silence the US, head insurrections and rebellions, and at the same time he has enough time to recover all these so-called Yamashita's treasures. His singing mindset was that any golds and wealth buried in Philippine territories, whether they are Yamashita's looted golds, natural deposits, or owned by some royal families in the Philippines, are belongings of God alone and should be used for the welfare of all God's creation, including the whole humanity. With that in mind, Marcos, during martial law, did all his best to recover all these wealth. He used all his political will, coupled with his intelligence, motivated by a firm vision with the welfare of his motherland in mind, to recover all these wealth and secure them, and consolidate them, even to the point of sacrificing his own reputation and honor just to make sure that these wealth shall be held in his custody for the future of the Philippines. Third, the ancient wealth kept by King Bernardo Carpio, which were securely hid in the caves of mountains in Montalban, Rizal, and other wealths hidden in mountains of Arayat, Mecali, and other locations. These other enormous wealth, safe kept by lady shamans named Maria Inquan and Maria Mecalin during the period of Spanish occupation of the Philippines, were recovered by Antonio Diaz. Later, storytellers mythified the real stories about Bernardo Carpio, Maria Inquan, and Maria Mecalin in order to hide or conceal their real identities from the general public, and also the wealth entrusted to their custodies by the Creator. Today, these people and their stories were absorbed into Philippine culture and dismissed as folklores, myths, and urban legends. The enormous wealth of King Bernardo Carpio, found in Montalban caves, includes Mongolian treasures of the great Mongolian Empire of old times. Included also were ancient paper documents, maps, and golds from the ancient kingdom of King Solomon, the Alpha Omega ring which has traveled the periods of antiquity from the time of Adam, then to Enoch, Noah, Shem, Joktan, David, and Solomon. Remember that after the great flood during Noah's time, the grandchildren of Noah and his son Shem and grandson Joktan, called Ether, Tarshish, Havilah, and many others, according to the Bible, went to the Far East, settled in the Isles of the Seas. This brings us to the truth that the Philippine archipelago, the ancient Oriental/Eastern islands, were the homelands of Noah's great grandchildren.